So while we have the Bronco Raptor here on the lift at Pro-Dyno, Fort Mill, South Carolina, if you guys want some install work done, cannot beat these guys. But while we've got this thing up on the lift, I'm going to give you guys a little features inspection underneath, show you what's going on with the Bronco Raptor. Also helps that we have the skid plate off the front, because when we did an oil change and then we installed the Whipple intercooler in here too. So there's going to be a few little differences versus a bone stock one, but we'll walk you through that. First being, of course, we've got the Whipple intercooler installed here. Working our way towards the back though, got a massive transmission cooler. It's nice to see, sort of with the skid plates out of the way, see up to the alternator. I'm surprised that Ford didn't mount the alternator higher just to get more water fording clearance on this thing, because that's kind of could be an issue mounted down low if that gets wet. Working around though, you got of course your boost pipes here on the back of your intercooler. We did stick these louvers back on. Over on the suspension side where things get interesting on the Raptor, all this stuff looks very much like Gen 3 F-150 Raptor. The knuckles are forged aluminum. You got these forged aluminum control arms on the bottom. Interestingly enough, where the standard Bronco uses an aluminum upper control arm, the Raptor uses a cast iron one. Then of course the Fox 3.0 shocks, that's what makes this thing so special. You have Raptor specific CV shafts, and you can see this thing is drooped out and the angles that these CV shafts are capable of supporting. Quite impressive. Got your beefed up front axle assembly here. Of course, it's all cast iron, splits apart if you need to service it. Jounce bumpers. The just about run into the lift over here. The sway bar is of course disconnecting. You can see the mechanism to do that right here. And that thing works really, really well. We've been playing with it off-road a little bit, and it's surprising how much articulation you get out of the front with the sway bar disconnect. It's a really, really nice feature. F-150 brakes, you know, all that good stuff that we come to expect. Steel skid plate here protecting your 10R60 transmission. You got your front drive shaft running right through here. Catalytic converter up here. You can see this thing's gotten a little warm. We've ran it. Maybe with a bit more boost in stock. You see the cat, O2 sensors, everything here on the passenger side. And then there's just like a lot of heavily built features on this thing. Everything is heavily skid plated, including the transfer case, fuel tank. Fuel tank's interesting because it goes all the way up underneath the passenger seat here. But you know, you've got skid plates protecting that. Everything is nicely heat shielded. All these hoses, all that good stuff. Transfer case here, going into your coupler for your drive shaft, and it looks like it's CVs all the way around too on the drive shaft. Raptor also has unique exhaust, so you've got this massive muffler here at the center going into this X pipe, so it's 2 in, 3 out on this muffler, and of course you got your active exhaust controllers right up there. There's a better shot at it. So you can put in all your various exhaust modes, quiet, sport, Baja, all that fun stuff. I tend to like sport mode. I think that sounds pretty good. Drive shaft, you've got a collapsible section in here, and speaking of collapsible, that's exactly what these perforations are for, is in case you get in a collision, it allows this drive shaft to crush instead of turning into a projectile and going into the passenger's cabin. Back here on the Dana 50 axle, metric Dana 50, you know, you can't really trust those numbers anymore. Dana 44, Dana 50, Dana 30, 35. They just throw those numbers on whatever they're producing at the time. So this Dana 50 is not the same Dana 50 that used to be on the front end of Super Duties. This is a completely new design. I call it the metric axles because they go on the ring gear diameter in millimeters to name them. But for whatever reason, they're calling this one a Dana 50, so that's what we'll call it. And you can see you got a nice joint here going in, so we're not running old style U-joints on this thing anymore. Another huge difference on the Raptor is these control arms are way, way beefier than on the regular Bronco. I mean, this lower control arm, this all looks like Gen 3 F-150 Raptor stuff. So you can see the design lineage there. It's very, very similar. I love the big, heavily built, fully boxed frame. Speaking of heavily built, yeah, this thing is heavy. We're talking like 5,700 pounds for this. So it's basically the same weight as an F-150 Raptor. So a lot of weight in the Bronco, but it runs well, performs well. You can see cross section here in the frame. I mean, this thing is just beefy. I like these Raptor style running boards. It's quite helpful on this because it sets up quite a bit higher than your standard Bronco. Working around to the back side, of course, on your Dana 50 axle, you get an aluminum diff cover, which I think looks pretty good. It has a little Raptor R in it. Single piston caliper in the back with electronic parking brake. You can see the axle vent goes way up into the nether regions here, so you can ford more water without soaking your internals on your axle. Standard Bronco would have their muffler mounted right here, but since they put the muffler up there, we get this nice little dual exhaust setup coming out over the axle, exiting right here in sort of like old style dumps. I like this. I think this looks really cool on the Raptor, and I'm really happy with the sound of the exhaust. I'm not sure I'm really even going to mess with it. The only thing I could see doing is maybe deleting these resonators, but they're really not doing a whole lot other than probably just cutting down on some drone. And check out the length of these brake lines so this thing can droop all the way out. That's almost hilarious. Big jounce bumpers here, and then of course your massive coil springs on your rear coilovers here on these Fox 3.0 shocks. Track bar in the back to keep the axle centered under the vehicle. And then one of the things that helped increase the towing capacity on the Bronco Raptor were these little additional braces that go back to this cross member on the frame from the hitch. So you get a bit more towing capacity with the Raptor version than you do on the standard Broncos. Of course, you got your tow points here in the back bolted into the frame. The name of the game is just heavy duty on all this stuff. Got your fuel tank here in the back. So another thing I noticed back here around the fuel tank is this little cap covering up the shank on the bolt. Goes through your upper control arm here on the back. And my guess this thing is here just in case things got a little too wild, to keep this bolt from piercing your fuel tank. So that's probably a good idea. You notice it's not over on this side, so that's why I would think it's here to protect that. You wouldn't need it on this side because it's not going to damage exhaust. So just another little safety feature. Up here on top of the fuel tank, you have your evaporative emission system. And then just check out the cross section on this frame rail here. This thing is just built super, super heavy duty. Really, really nice looking stuff. Same thing with all these mounts here. Just ridiculously heavy. But I think that'll pretty much do it for underneath here on the Raptor. I mean, there's still a ton of skid plates covering some other stuff I could probably show you, but it's kind of the sort of things you've seen on other vehicles, like the transmission. Pretty much every Ford uses one version or another of this 6R transmission, 6R60 on the Bronco, 6R80s on the F-150s and whatnot, and really the only difference is just the amount of clutches they put in there. Of course, got your steering rack and everything right here, electronic power steering, you know, normal stuff. But I think that'd be a good time to go ahead and just end this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe, you know, send us a credit report, your mother's maiden name, all that kind of good stuff. And as always, head over to SVTPerformance.com for all the latest news, reviews, and information on your favorite Ford powered vehicles, especially the Bronco Raptor.